the symptom of the problem is that you are working 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day. That's not the problem itself. So you are addressing the symptom rather than treating the problem. And the problem is more than likely with your business or with yourself. Welcome back to another episode of Midweek Modern Craftsman. Most of us started our business for freedom, but somewhere along the way, we became the bottleneck. In this episode, I am sharing a story that made me stop and think about the way that I used to run my business and what finally made me change. So a few nights ago, I was heading back from one of our daughter's softball games, and it was around 8:30 at night. It was already pretty dark out. There weren't too many cars on the road, and I passed a buddy of mine's shop, and his truck was backed up to the bay door. The lights were still on. And I couldn't tell exactly what he was doing, maybe wrapping up a long day, maybe loading up for the day tomorrow. But what was clear to me was that the day was not over for him. And that hit me pretty hard because that used to be me. That used to define me. That was really what I hung my hat on, that I could outwork anyone, that I could grind it out more so than my competition. And maybe that was instilled on me wrestling growing up. That if you put in the hard work, if you worked when other people were sleeping, that the results and the success at that point would be inevitable. But passing by his shop this night, really, it hit me because that's not my life anymore. And I enjoy my life so much more now. And I don't hang my hat on the fact that I grind, and it's not a badge of honor for me. And I'm not skipping dinner. I'm not, going back to work after the girls go to bed. I'm not missing sporting events and events at school. But it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that I did, and it doesn't feel that I'm that far removed from it. Back then, it felt like it was what I had to do to make it, right? I just kept telling myself I just started my business. I would get to a point that this would change, but it won't change until you change it. And it didn't change until I changed it specifically. But at some point, I had to ask myself, what exactly am I making by doing all of this? So here's what they don't tell you when you start a business, that it's not just about revenue or the amount of trucks that you have on the road. It's not about the amount of employees that you have or how, what your top line was that year, or bottom line for that matter. Sometimes in the pursuit of quote unquote making it, we lose sight of why we started it in the first place, which was for me freedom, because I love the work, because I enjoyed making things, because I enjoyed making people happy, transforming a space, really just building something with my hands. And it became this grind. And that was really my badge of honor. That was, again, what I hung my hat on. And I lost sight of all the reasons that I did this. And I think that my ego got in the way, and I wanted more trucks on the road. I wanted a bigger business. I wanted a higher bottom line. I wanted to be working in a certain area and doing certain jobs. Yeah, for the challenge, but also to be able to say that's what I was doing. And again, driving by my buddy's shop the other night just was a pretty strong reminder on how grateful I am now that I'm home for dinner. That I don't miss out on those games, that I get enough sleep, that I'm not hospitalized, I'm not hustling as much as I was. And I am, I still hustle to a certain extent. I still grind it out, but it's on my own terms. It's not because I didn't bid a job correctly, or it's not because my clients need to be in by a certain date. It's because I'm choosing to do so. And every now and then I'm not gonna lie, there's the deadline that makes you push through typically the end of a project, but it's not every day. It's not 8:30 at night that I'm loading up for the next day. Monday through Friday, Sunday night. I never was one really to work weekends. Every now and then I would have to, but that wasn't my MO. Um, when you're in the thick of it, when you're building the business, when you're wearing the tool belt, when you are managing subs, employees, it's hard to step away from that. It's hard to zoom out. It's hard to see how this is impacting your life, and it's hard to realize the mess that you've made, because you're really just concerned with keeping your head above water. It becomes normal. It becomes your life. We tell ourselves, this is just business. This is part of owning a business. Anyone who works for somebody else essentially is a part-time job. And I think that, there's a certain aspect of running a business that you're going to have to spend a little more time. You have more stake in it than anyone else. It's not always easy, and there's certain stress, and we own that, but it doesn't have to be that way every single day. And maybe by chance, my buddy, it was a late night for him, a one-off night, but I felt that it's not that long ago that I was there. And when I was in it, it wasn't easy, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I stepped away from it and I removed myself from it. And I had some clarity as to what I was doing and how it was affecting me and how it was affecting my family. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really making me much more money, to be completely honest. A few things that I have learned now, or that I know now that I wish I had known a little bit earlier, is that profit is more than just revenue. It's easy to get caught up in that top line of a project, right? You land a $200,000 kitchen, you're like, this is my biggest kitchen, and it might look great on paper, but if you're walking away with barely enough to support your lifestyle or pay your bills, it's not really a success. It's just stress in disguise. Every job that you take should serve your bottom line and your long-term goals. And if you are not pricing for profit, you're just buying yourself a job and you're working at the expense of your clients. And it's a job typically that you cannot quit. Another thing that I've learned over the years is that systems give you freedom. And I learned this with my children as well, though I don't implement them as well at home as I do in business. But if my kids know that they go to sleep every night at 9:00, that actually gives them freedom, rather than some nights you go to sleep at 10, sometimes you go to sleep at 8. They know their schedule. They know how much time they have left, when they have to get in the shower, when they have to brush their teeth. It actually creates freedom, not only for them, but for us. I didn't always believe this when it comes to work, when it comes to business. I thought that they were reserved, typically like these systems and these SOPs were for big companies with staffs, a ton of employees. But now that I realize systems are for small companies as well, and they can create profit and they can create freedom more so than anything else. And just because you are a small business doesn't mean that you shouldn't have your own systems. They don't have to be these extremely intricate, robust systems, but you have to have systems. You have to have processes in order to grow, to scale, to hire somebody, to train somebody. You have to have systems in place. They create the freedom, they create the standards, they create profitability for your business. Without systems, you are oftentimes just reacting to what's happening rather than having a plan in place. Pre-construction is a system for me that really changed a lot. I know that we've dug into that a lot, but that was one of the big changes that I made in my business, that really made me reconsider the way that I was doing things, and that led to me understanding the amount of time that I had budgeted and allocated to a job, and then how to manage that on the back end to guarantee that I was as profitable as I anticipated, or as close to profitable as I anticipated. Again, really separating myself from the ego there, and managing a job to expectation and to budget, rather than to my needs, my wants, and perfectionism. Another thing is you don't have to do it all. Being a small business owner, we often feel, right, we're the estimator, we are the superintendent, we're the project manager, we're the client liaison, we're everyone. We wear every hat. And while that's true to a certain extent, and I still do that to a certain extent, there are things that you can allocate and assign to other individuals. And it could just be things that you don't want to do or things that you're not good at. But you have to realize that your time is best spent somewhere. And it could be from like an efficiency standpoint, it could be from a value perspective, but your time is best served somewhere. So you have to find that out with your client base. I just had a consulting call with a guy this morning, and he's wearing multiple hats, and he's having trouble managing the volume of work that he has in place. And what's excuse me, I just hit my microphone. What's ending up happening is he's just spending too much time in all of these areas that he shouldn't be, and he's not able to charge for them. And there's a ton of inefficiency due to that. And running around in this sense, you can't gauge what your true costs are. You can't gauge where your time is best spent. You can't capture hours if you have no metric for the amount of hours that you're spending. So find things that you can allocate to other individuals, that you can assign to other individuals that suits their strengths and also suits your strengths. Find what you're really good at, where your time is the most valuable, and spend it there. Approach this from a profitability perspective, because at the end of the day, we're in business to make money. And if you are not profitable, you're not going to be sustainable. And you're lying to yourself about the type of business that you have. There's ways that I make money. There's aspects of my business that don't make me money. So I would rather spend my time on the tasks that have the highest impact from a profitability perspective. And that also comes outside of construction as well, right? If there's opportunities in my life that can make me more money than what I'm doing in construction, and it still fulfills me, I have to understand that there's an opportunity cost there. And where's my time best spent? What type of lifestyle does that provide for me? And how should I allocate my time? Because I shouldn't be doing everything. I shouldn't be doing tasks that I'm not good at, that I'm inefficient, that I can pay somebody to do, that free me up to do things that are more profitable or higher impact. So as soon as you realize you don't need to do everything, that you don't have to do everything, and you can't do everything, you have to pass those tasks off. And then you have to understand how to capture those costs. I think when we do everything ourselves, oftentimes we're not capturing the cost, and we're doing it to provide value through competition, and through really price point. And if you were to allocate those tasks sooner, you would realize that that's a cost that you need to recoup. You need to capture. It needs to be built into the cost of your doing business, which sets you in the right direction from a business perspective. I suggest that people start small with this. For me, it was bookkeeping. I realized early on that I was taking time after work to try and fumble and stumble my way through QuickBooks, and I was paying for a QuickBooks membership when I could hire a bookkeeper. I could get rid of my QuickBooks account and membership and pay a bookkeeper, and it would be less than the cost of my monthly membership, as well as the time that I was having to pull away from the job, or not see my kids, or not sleep. So that small fee that I could very easily integrate into my business was then captured through an overhead, rather than me doing it for free after work at night, fumbling my way through that. Another huge skill that I learned that's been very valuable is saying no. And this is, in fact, a skill. The wrong job will wreck your schedule, your margins, and your mental health. For me, my physical health. The wrong client or wrong clients make you doubt your own worth and diminish your confidence. And that's not good for any of us. I've had consulting calls with people where I swear I just needed to get on the call with them and tell them that, yeah, you had a couple of jobs that didn't go your way. You lost a couple of jobs, but you can't lose sight of everything that you've done. You need to maintain your confidence. You need to understand that your processes, your systems are all dialed. You're just having a little bit of bad luck. And I think that when we begin to lose confidence in whatever aspect of our life is, but especially business, we start to question everything that we do. We start to question, are we too expensive? Is this the right sub? Is this the right employee? Am I spending my time where I should? So I think maintaining that confidence through ideal clients, through the correct clients, and steering clear of those toxic clients or clients that make you question your self-worth or your value is one of the most profitable things that you can do. Every no will make space for the right yes. And a lot of times we think that that no is going to cost us money just due to loss of work. But you have to understand that if you can say no and you can focus on your business, or you can line up the right job, that not only are you going to impact yourself immediately, but down the road, you're going to get more of those same type of jobs through referrals, through testimonials, through experience, through capturing content and marketing yourself around those type of projects and those type of clients. So it's a possibly a short-term concession for long-term strides. Your time matters a lot. And as business owners, we often are squeezing 26 hours into a 24-hour day. And we think that, we can just continue to make more time. We can get up earlier. We can stay up later. Most people are bound to an 8-hour workday, and we can work 14. We can work 16. It doesn't matter as much as you want to work. And I did that, and it didn't work out so well for me. The only reason I find that people are working more than they have to is because they're undercharging, because something went wrong, because they don't know their numbers, because they can send everyone home and they can continue to put free work in place to try and catch up. So I think that if you're making your rate, if you're making the money that you need to, and you want to work more than 8 hours, that's fine. You can hustle, you can make the a little bit more money. But if you're doing it because you're behind, or because there's not enough budget to pay people to do the work, or because you're not capturing those costs, then you're not running a sustainable and a profitable business. Time is the only thing that we don't get back. You deserve to be there for your people, for your family, for your business, for your clients. And that needs to be a manageable amount of time. You can't be working 12, 16 hours a day every single day of your life. There needs to be time for other things. You can't continue to plant seeds while somebody else watches them grow. You need to be present within your own life. The bottom line here, right, is that owning your business doesn't mean you have to be owned by it. And I was owned by my business for a very long time. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have it all figured out, that every day is, sunshine and rainbows. I've made every mistake that you can make. I've overbooked myself. I've most certainly undercharged. I've overpromised, underdelivered. I've done the weekend thing time to time. I've skipped meals. I've lost sleep. I've wound up in the hospital. And it's crazy that I just thought that was normal. I thought that was part of it. And I think that a lot of us think that that's part of it, but it's not. It shouldn't be. And again, maybe my buddy was just having one late night, but maybe he's in the cycle that I was, and he's a bit trapped, and that there's a lot of nights like that. And I hope that he or you or everyone can gain some clarity and understand that if you're having to put that much time into it, it's not working. Like the conversation I had with Nick, if your business, can make $250,000, but you're working 100 hours a week, is it worth it? Are you can't just say I'm making $250,000. You're really making less than half of that because you're working over 2x what you should have to. So don't lose sight of that. Be honest with yourself. Be open. Understand the amount of time that you're putting into it. And there's going to be long days. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be mistakes. That's everything in life. That's every business. That's if you work for somebody or you work for yourself. But it can't be every day. If your business needs that much of your time and consumes you that much, you don't have the right systems in place, and something's wrong, and you need to dig into it and figure out what's going on. It's not me anymore. I don't do that anymore. Again, pushing a job, closing a job out, holidays, weekend push. There's times where I have to work more than I want to. But it's not all the time. And typically if I'm working more than I want to, it's because of my own program. It's not because I'm forced to, or because I left money on the table, or because I'm not capturing those costs. Again, I think that most of us work more than we have to because something's not right. We're not capturing our costs. We didn't account for something correctly, and we're trying to put extra work in to make up time and get back on track. And we get caught in that cycle of doing that for too long. And instead of actually addressing the issue that, hey, there's something with my process that's incorrect. There's something with my business that the numbers are off, whether it's my estimating, whether it's my budgeting, whether it's my management on the back end, something's off that's creating an issue. And we think the issue is just that we need to catch up. And once we catch up, it'll be better. But the fact of the matter is that we typically never catch up. So I would look at what the root cause of it is rather than treating the symptom of the problem, right? The symptom of the problem is that you are working 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day. That's not the problem itself. So you are addressing the symptom rather than treating the problem. And the problem is more than likely with your business or with yourself. Again, I'm still working. I'm still making mistakes. I'm still trying to sort all of this out, but I'm in a better place than I have been. Life's more enjoyable, business more enjoyable, business is more profitable. I find the less that I work, the more I can focus on business and dial my processes, the more profitable I am. Actually, the less I have to work, because I can put less work into place and make what I was making before, putting 2-3x into place. So if you're in that season now, the late nights, the early mornings, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, I see you and I feel you, and I've been there, and I respect the hustle. But I also want you to know it doesn't have to be that way forever. There's a better way. And I think a lot of times we tell ourselves it's what we want, and this is what this is who we are. This is why I get into this. But many times it's just ego getting in the way. And I'm not here to tell you that it's necessarily about doing less. It's just about doing the right things at the right time, the right way. So that version of me at 8:30 at night, loading the truck, loading up for the next day on a Sunday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, whatever it is, it's not that far gone. And that guy is still there sometimes, but he's more of the exception than the rule. So every dinner at home, every bedtime, every weekend spent not catching up on paperwork, every night that I actually get 8 hours of sleep, those moments are proof that change is possible. And if I can change, if I can do it, you definitely can. It just takes a decision, and then it takes some changes. And again, treating the problem, not the symptom. This podcast, this blog post, which also go on the website, moderncraftsman.co, check out the blog posts as well. They're a little bit different than the podcast. It was obviously brought on by seeing this, experiencing this the other night, and seeing my buddy work super late. Also, a couple of recent consulting calls with clients where they're just at a point where they feel like they're spinning their wheels, and they're unsure of how to navigate the transition, whether they need to scale as far as bottom line goes, whether they need to create efficiencies, whether they need to just better capture their hours, whether they need to increase their margins or find ways to increase their margins. A handful of people have been running into this lately. And it seems as though, right, they grew, the market was booming, they grew because they had to provide for contractors, they had to provide for clients, and they didn't want to say no. And it seemed like opportunity, and things are finally slowing down, and they're realizing, what the heck did I just do for the past 4 or 5 years? And they don't want to continue down that path. They don't want to continue trying to put more work into place. They want to simplify things. They want to scale back. They want to be able to put less work into place and have better margins. And they want to understand how to capture those numbers, or even just how to gauge and quantify those numbers in the first place on bigger jobs, smaller jobs, whatever they may be. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you're experiencing that, if you want to hop on a consulting call, shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com, and we can discuss what that looks like, what my schedule looks like. I do a couple a week. I try and keep my schedule. I try not to book out that far in advance, because I'm not sure what 3 weeks from now might hold for me day to day. So I just don't want to put too much pressure on myself. But if there's something, I just had somebody reach out where they needed something sooner than later, and I squeaked it into my schedule week of. So if there's something that you just feel like you're in a pinch, you're in a bind, you want some answers, you want to discuss what's going on, or find some enlightenment, shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com, and let me know. I appreciate everyone sticking around. I appreciate everyone who's been listening to the podcast, sharing the podcast. Nick and I and Doug have some exciting news coming up. I'm actually traveling to Boston tomorrow to film some stuff in person, trying to switch things up a bit, a little bit of a different vibe to the podcast. Doing some more conversations with Nick and myself, digging into business issues, life issues. So I'm excited for that. We're just looking to switch things up. There's a lot of podcasts out there right now. And we are looking, as always, to elevate, not remain stagnant, and continue to move forward. So if you have any suggestions, wants, needs, shoot us an email, hello@moderncraftsman.co, or tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. Hope you all enjoy your week, and I will catch you next week.